Captain Marvel is a 2019 American superhero film based on Marvel Comics featuring the character Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel. Produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, it is the 21st film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. The film was directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck from a screenplay they co-wrote with Geneva Robertson-Dworet. It stars Brie Larson as Carol Danvers, alongside Samuel L. Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn, Jimin Hoon-soo, Lee Pace, Lashana Lynch, Gemma Chan, Annette Bening, Clark Gregg, and Jude Law. Set in 1995, the story follows Danvers as she becomes Captain Marvel after Earth is caught in a galactic conflict. Development began by May 2013. The film was officially announced in October 2014 as Marvel Studios' first female-led project. Nicole Perlman and Meg Elifave were hired to write it the following April after submitting separate takes on the character, and borrowed elements from Roy Thomas's 1971 Kree, Skrull War comic book storyline. Larson was announced as Danvers at the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con, with Boden and Fleck hired to direct in April 2017. Robertson-Dworet was soon hired to rewrite the script, and the rest of the cast were added by the start of filming. Location shooting began in January 2018, with principal photography starting that March in California and concluding in Louisiana in July 2018. Several actors reprised their roles from previous MCU films, including Jackson and Gregg. They were both digitally de-aged in post-production to reflect the film's 1990s setting. Captain Marvel premiered in London on February 27, 2019, and was theatrically released in the United States on March 8 as part of Phase 3 of the MCU. The film grossed over $1.1 billion worldwide, making it the first female-led superhero film to pass the billion-dollar mark. It became the fifth highest-grossing film of 2019 and was the 23rd highest-grossing film of all time during its theatrical run. The film received generally positive reviews from critics, with praise for the performances, particularly Larson's. Audience responses were also positive, although the audience reception section on Rotten Tomatoes was subject to review bombing. A sequel, The Marvels, was released on November 10, 2023. Plot. In 1995, on the Kree Empire's capital planet of Hala, Starforce member Ver suffers from amnesia and recurring nightmares involving an older woman. Yon-Rogg, her mentor and commander, trains Ver to control her abilities, while the Supreme Intelligence, the artificial intelligence that rules the Kree, urges her to keep her emotions in check. During a mission to rescue an undercover operative infiltrating a group of Skrulls, alien shapeshifters with whom the Kree are at war, Ver is captured by Skrull Commander Talos. A probe of Ver's memories leads them to Earth. Ver escapes and crash lands in Los Angeles. Her presence attracts SHIELD agents Nick Fury and Phil Coulson, whose investigation is interrupted by a Skrull attack. Ver recovers a crystal containing her extracted memories in the ensuing chase while Fury kills a Skrull impersonating Coulson. Talos, disguised as Fury's boss Keller, orders Fury to work with Ver and keep tabs on her. Using her extracted memories, Ver and Fury go to the Project Pegasus installation at a former U.S. Air Force base. They discover that Ver is a human pilot who was presumed to have died in 1989 while testing an experimental lightspeed engine designed by Dr. Wendy Lawson, whom Ver recognizes as the woman from her nightmares. Fury informs SHIELD of their location and a team arrives. When he realizes that Keller is Talos, Fury helps Ver escape in a prototype jet with Lawson's stowaway cat, Goose. They fly to Louisiana to meet former pilot Maria Rambeau, the last person to see Ver and Lawson alive. Rambeau and her daughter Monica reveal that Ver is Carol Danvers, who was once like family to them. Talos, arriving unarmed, says the Skrulls are refugees searching for a new home to escape the Kree's unjust war, and Lawson was Mar-Vell, a renegade Kree scientist helping them. Talos plays a recovered black box recording from Lawson's jet, prompting Danvers to remember the crash, Yon-Rogg killed Mar-Vell to prevent her from destroying the engine before the Kree could recover it. Danvers destroyed the engine herself and absorbed its energy, gaining powers but losing her memory. Danvers, Talos, Fury, and Rambeau locate Lawson's cloaked laboratory orbiting Earth, where Lawson hid several Skrulls, including Talos's family, and the Tesseract, the power source of Lawson's engine. Danvers is captured by Starforce and interfaces with the Supreme Intelligence. Danvers removes a Kree implant that has been suppressing her powers, allowing her to reach her full potential. In the subsequent battle, Fury retrieves Goose, who is revealed to be an alien Flurkin. Goose swallows the Tesseract and scratches Fury, blinding his left eye. Danvers destroys a Kree bomber, forcing Kree officer Ronan the Accuser and his squadron to retreat. Danvers overpowers Yon-Rogg and sends him to Hollow with a warning for the Supreme Intelligence. She then departs to help the Skrulls find a new home world, leaving Fury a modified pager to contact her in an emergency. After experiencing extraterrestrial threats, Fury drafts an initiative to locate more heroes like Danvers, naming it after her Air Force call sign Avenger. In a mid-credits scene set in 2018, the pager has been activated and is being monitored by the Avengers when Danvers appears looking for Fury. In a post-credits scene, Goose climbs onto Fury's desk and regurgitates the Tesseract. Cast: Brie Larson, top, and Samuel L. Jackson, bottom, with Maj. Gen. Jeannie Leavitt, the U.S. Air Force's first female fighter pilot and consultant on Captain Marvel. Brie Larson as Carol Danvers /Bear Captain Marvel. An ex-U.S. Air Force fighter pilot and member of an elite Kree military unit called Starforce. She was imbued with superhuman strength, energy projection, and flight after exposure to Tesseract energy. 7-8 Larson described Danvers as a believer in truth and justice and a bridge between Earth and space. 9 who must balance her unemotional Kree side with her flawed human half. 7 Larson also called Danvers aggressive, quick-tempered, and invasive, attributes that help her in a fight but prove to be character flaws. 10 Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige said Larson was cast because of her ability to balance the character's vast powers with her humanity. 11 Due to concern that Larson, aged 26 when she was cast, was too young to portray an accomplished airman, screenwriter Nicole Perlman consulted with the Air Force, who said it was possible for someone to excel between the ages of 28 and 34. 12 Larson trained for 9 months for the role, learning judo, boxing, and wrestling. 7-13 She also visited Nellis Air Force Base and met with active duty airmen, including Brigadier General Jeannie Leavitt and Thunderbirds pilot Major Stephen Del Bagno, in preparation for the role. 14-15-16 Carol Danvers is portrayed as a 13-year-old by McKenna Grace. 14-17-18 and as a 6-year-old by London Fuller. 18. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, the future director of SHIELD, who at this time is a low-level bureaucrat. 19 Fury appears without his signature eye patch as the film is set before he loses his eye. 20 Feige explained that Danvers is the first superhero that Fury has come across. 21 Which sets him on a path to his role working with heroes in later set MCU films. 22 Jackson described Fury at this point as a desk jockey, who has not yet become cynical towards bureaucracy and who learns in the film that there are superpowered beings who could help SHIELD. 23 Jackson added that trusting Danvers plays a key role in his development, as they become compatriots throughout the film. 24 Jackson was digitally de-aged by 25 years, the first time Marvel had done this for an entire film. 25. Ben Mendelsohn as Talos and Keller. Talos is the shape-shifting leader of the Skrulls who goes undercover at SHIELD as Fury's boss, Keller. 26 Mendelsohn described Keller as buttoned up compared to Talos's more laid-back Skrull persona. Mendelsohn uses an American accent inspired by former United States Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld for Keller, and his native Australian accent for Talos. The latter was chosen, after a lengthy discussion, due to what Mendelsohn called earthy correctness. The makeup and prosthetics necessary to portray Talos took a couple of hours to apply. 26 Executive producer Jonathan Schwartz added that it's sort of fun to show off both the Skrulls' powers and Ben's range as an actor with the character. 24 Talos also takes on a surfer girl form, portrayed by Emily Osry and Abigail Osry, and a Kree soldier disguise played by Dwayne Henry. 18 An early version of the script had the character dying in the film. 27 Jimin Hoon-soo as Korath, a Kree swordsman and second in command of Star Force. 28-29 Hoon-soo explained that Korath was at his infancy in the film compared to his appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, film Guardians of the Galaxy, 2014, but was still a humorless machine. 30 Lee Pace as Ronan the Accuser, a high-ranking Kree official. 28-31 Compared with his appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy, Ronan is not yet a radical zealot, with his role in the Kree military intersecting with Star Force in an interesting way. 24 Lashana Lynch as Maria Rambeau, one of Danvers's oldest friends and a fellow Air Force pilot who goes by the call sign Photon. She is a single mother to daughter Monica. 32 Lynch described Rambeau as resilient and someone that you don't feel like you need to help. 32 Larson called Rambeau the representation of love in the film and an incredible badass. She described the friendship between Danvers and Rambeau as equal, with a playful competitiveness and a mutual respect. 33 Like Larson, Lynch met with active duty airmen in preparation for the role. In particular, she met with pilots who are also mothers. Lynch was excited to portray a character the audience would be proud of and could relate to, especially mothers and members of the Black community, helping to continue a real through line for African American characters in the MCU after Black Panther, 2018. 32 Gemma Chan as Minerva, a Kree sniper and member of Star Force. 30-34 Chan explained that Minerva was the star of Star Force before Danvers joined the team and is slightly threatened by someone else who has come in and is also very talented. 30 Annette Bening as the Supreme Intelligence and Marvel/Dr. Wendy Lawson. The Supreme Intelligence is an artificial intelligence that is the collective embodiment of the greatest minds of the Kree people, and the ruler of the Kree Empire. 35-36 It appears in different forms to each person. 24 Specifically to Ver as rebel Kree scientist Marvel, who had disguised herself on Earth as Danvers's boss Dr. Wendy Lawson. 37 Marvel was originally written as a male love interest to Danvers as in the comics, but after struggling to cast the character, co-director Anna Boden suggested that they cast a woman instead, and tie her into the Supreme Intelligence storyline by combining those characters. Boden said Bening was regal as the Supreme Intelligence, and casual and cool and laid back as Lawson. 38 Feige said changing Marvel's gender was important to Danvers's development in the film, giving her a female mentor. 39 Clark Gregg as Phil Coulson, a rookie agent of SHIELD who works closely with Fury. 19 Gregg said the film would be the earliest we will have seen Coulson in the MCU, so when he says Mr. Stark, this isn't my first rodeo in Iron Man, 2008, this is maybe the rodeo he's talking about. 40 He had to work to portray Coulson as a little less crusty and jaded than he is in the present day of the MCU. 19 Though Coulson encountered the Kree in the MCU television series Agents of SHIELD. 2013-2020, Schwartz noted that Captain Marvel would not need to worry about that since it is a prequel where Kree is not even part of his vocabulary yet. 41 Like Jackson, Gregg was digitally de-aged by 25 years. 25 Jude Law as Yon-Rogg, the commander of Star Force and Danvers's mentor, who trains her to use her new powers. 1842 Law said that his character is driven by a belief in the divine leadership of the Kree people. So he's almost a devout warrior, unquestioning, conservative, but inspirational. Law also stated that his character has a special relationship with Danvers, whom he views as a protege, which becomes a source of tension in the film with the other members of Star Force. Robert Downey Jr., who portrays Tony Stark in the MCU films and who co-starred with Law in Sherlock Holmes, 2009, and its sequel, 2011, counseled him on working with Marvel before Law took the part. 34 In October 2024, Law said he enjoyed making the film but wished that he was able to have more fun with the character and make him more arch and humorous. He signed a one-picture deal for the role. 43. Additional members of Star Force include Algenis Perez Soto as ATT Lass, the marksman of the team, and Rune Tempt as Bronchar, the bigger, stronger guy who fights with his fists. 1429 Maria's daughter, Monica Rambeau, is played by Akira and Azari Akbar as an 11-year-old and a 5-year-old, respectively. 1844 Sharon Blind portrays Sarin, Talos's wife 45, while Auden L. Ovals and Harriet L. Ovals portray their daughter. 46 Robert Kaczynski appears as a biker nicknamed the Don. 18 Vic Sahai plays a Torfan 18, while Chikumoto portrays the Kree spy Solar. 18 Colin Ford appears as Danvers' brother, Steve 18, and Kenneth Mitchell plays their father. 18 Danvers' comic book cat Chewie, named for the Star Wars character Chewbacca, appears in the film, renamed Goose after the Top Gun, 1986, character Nick Goose Bradshaw. 2447 Its name was changed since Star Wars is a contemporary franchise and not specific to Danvers, unlike the pilot-themed Top Gun. 48 Goose is portrayed by 4 different cats, each chosen for their actions and personality: Reggie, Archie, Rizzo, and Gonzo. 24 Patrick Brennan, who previously portrayed Marcus Daniels in Agents of SHIELD, appears as a bartender. Producer Victoria Alonso alluded to the possibility that the two were the same character. 49. Real-life Air Force pilots Matthew Spider Kimmel and Stephen Cajun Del Bagno appear as themselves. 18 Del Bagno died months prior to the film's release 50, and it is dedicated to his memory. 51 Captain Marvel comic book writer Kelly Sue Deckenick makes a cameo appearance as a train station passerby. 24 And Stan Lee, co-creator of Captain Marvel, appears posthumously as himself, memorizing the lines for his cameo in Mallrats, 1995. 52 Reprising their MCU roles for the mid-credits scene are Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, and Don Cheadle as James Rhodey Rhodes. 6. Production. Development. We've been talking a lot about how to write a strong female superhero without making it Superman with boobs. We have this constant back and forth about how to tell a story that is compelling, entertaining, moving, kick-ass, and fun, and also be aware of what those larger implications might be. Initial screenwriter Nicole Perlman on creating Marvel Studios' first lead female superhero. 53. By May 2013, Marvel Studios' writing room had produced a script for a film featuring Ms. Marvel, an alias used by the character Carol Danvers before she took the mantle Captain Marvel. 54 Later that year, executive producer Luis D. Esposito said the studio was interested in a female-driven superhero film and had plenty of strong female characters from which to choose, suggesting Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Pepper Potts, or Peggy Carter as possible candidates. 55 Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios, said that if Marvel was to make a female-led film, he would prefer it to be a new character to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, like Captain Marvel, for whom an origin story could be told. 56 In August 2014, Feige stated that development had begun on a Captain Marvel film, and said members of the public asked about the project more often than Iron Man 4 or Avengers, Infinity War, 2018. 57. In October 2014, Feige announced that Captain Marvel would be the studio's first female-led film, and would focus on Carol Danvers. 58-59 It was given a release date of July 6, 2018, as part of their Phase 3 slate of films. 58 Feige said the film had been in development almost as long as Guardians of the Galaxy, 2014, and Doctor Strange, 2016, and one of its biggest challenges would be balancing the title character's earthbound adventures with her cosmic powers. 58 he said a writer and director for the film would be announced soon, and female filmmakers were being considered for the project, but he could not promise that filmmakers from a certain demographic would be hired for the film. 60. In February 2015, Marvel pushed the release date back to November 2, 2018, to accommodate Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017. 61 In early April, Feige revealed that Captain Marvel had been included in an early draft of the Avengers: Age of Ultron, 2015, screenplay, but Marvel chose to remove this appearance because they did not want to introduce the character before they were able to explore her backstory and personality first. 62 He also said that Marvel would announce writers for the film within a few weeks. 63 And by mid-April, Guardians of the Galaxy co-screenwriter Nicole Perlman and Inside Out, 2015, co-screenwriter Meg Elifave were announced to be writing the screenplay. 64 The duo were put together as a writing team after impressing Feige with separate takes on the characters. 65 And began work on the film within a month. 66 Jessica Gao, who would later become the head writer for the Marvel Studios television series She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, 2022, also pitched for the film. 67 As did A.C. Bradley, who became the head writer of the Marvel Studios animated series What If? 2021 to 2024. 68 Elifave found the character being a female superhero to be both wonderful and a challenge, believing that the character's power level could lead to the Superman curse of being perceived to be invulnerable. 69 Additionally, Elifave and Perlman found that writing a story about a human and not getting too overwhelmed by the worry of representing all women worked best when approaching the story. An article about young girls who would quit learning to code after they encountered trouble made Elifave and Perlman consider questions about females being taught they cannot make mistakes or embrace their own power. This helped the duo realize that part of embracing your power is failure and seeing it more as feedback instead of your character. 70. Brie Larson at the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con after being announced in the role of Captain Marvel. By May, Marvel had discussions with Ava DuVernay about directing Captain Marvel or Black Panther, 2018, 71, which Feige confirmed a month later, saying that he had met with DuVernay amongst a number of other directors and expected a decision to be made by mid to late 2015. 72 That September, Feige said that the casting process would not begin until 2016, as the studio did not want to try to cast Carol Danvers until they had decided on the direction for the character in the screenplay, as well as the structure of the film and the character's role in the rest of Marvel's Phase 3 films. Producer Jeremy Lacham elaborated that getting the character right first is going to lead the charge. 73 In October 2015, Marvel changed the release date again, this time moving it to March 8, 2019, to make room for Ant-Man and the Wasp, 2018. 74. Feige stated in April 2016 that a director would be announced within a few months and that the first cast members would be announced in mid-2016. He also mentioned that the film would be about Carol Danvers becoming Captain Marvel. 75 The next month, indie filmmaker Emily Carmichael's name surfaced as a possible contender to direct the film. 76 And by June, Brie Larson emerged as the front-runner to play Captain Marvel. 77 Larson's casting was confirmed at the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con. 78 She was set to earn $5 million for the film. 79 Larson was initially hesitant to accept the role, but couldn't deny the fact that this movie is everything I care about, everything that's progressive and important and meaningful, and a symbol I wished I would have had growing up. 80 She was able to bring to the part some of those deep emotional things she had used in previous, more dramatic roles. Larson felt this would differentiate Captain Marvel from other superhero films. 7 Also at Comic-Con, Feige said the search for a director had narrowed to 10 candidates and he hoped to announce the final choice in the coming months. 81. Perlman revealed in August that the character's origin story had been changed for the film because of similarities to the DC Comics character Green Lantern 82, with Feige explaining that the new story is centered on Danvers finding her limitations and vulnerabilities. He added that Danvers is the most powerful character in the MCU, and would become very important in the franchise. 83 producer Nate Moore said the film avoids the traditional structure of many MCU origin stories, which he described as a character having a problem before gaining powers at the end of the first act, and the end of the second act they learn about the powers, the third act they probably fight a villain who has a function of the same powers. 84 Instead, Danvers starts the film having already gained her powers. 10. In October 2016, Feige admitted that the announcement for a director was taking longer than he previously expected, and explained that the studio was now waiting for more of the film's story to be defined in the script so they could then talk to potential directors about it. Once again talking about hiring a female filmmaker to direct the film, Feige said that he did not think it would be a requirement to make a great version of the film, but it was something that Marvel felt was important to consider, even if that female filmmaker did not know a lot about the comics, as they just have to fall in love with it once they are presented with it. It's amazing to see all of the filmmakers read through the source material and know, oh, a female's writing it now, speaking in particular to Kelly Sue DeConnick's run in the comics. 83 Feige expected a director to be announced by the end of 2016. 85 However, Perlman and Elifave turned in a script treatment around December, pushing additional meetings with director candidates into early 2017. 86. In February 2017, Perlman stated that despite her and Elifave being hired almost a year previously, the duo had only recently gotten their marching orders for the script, stating that one of the reasons for the delay was figuring out where the film would fit within the MCU. 12 She explained that because of Marvel Studios continually shifting plans for Phase 3 and their culminating Avengers films, Infinity War, and Avengers, Endgame, 2019, the duo were tasked with creating various different versions of what the film could look like. These were then discussed with Marvel Studios executives to determine what worked from each and how it would fit in with the Avengers plans as they currently stood, before the writing duo would start the process over again. This iterative process occurred for over a year and a half. 87, 323 to 324 Perlman also discussed the character's femininity, feeling that it was important to make sure she is not somebody who is a hero in spite of her femininity. Being a woman is part of her strength. The writers were also wary of tropes that could be diminishing to a female character but not for male characters, such as things they would not have been concerned about writing for Iron Man but would not play the same way for Captain Marvel. 12. Pre-production. This is not a superhero who's perfect or otherworldly. What makes her special is just how human she is. She's funny, but doesn't always tell good jokes. And she can be headstrong and reckless and doesn't always make the perfect decisions for herself. But at her core, she has so much heart and so much humanity and all of its messiness. Co-director Anna Boden on the film's title character. 10. Marvel hired Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck to direct Captain Marvel in April 2017, after the duo impressed the studio over numerous meetings with their vision for the character and because of their experience working in both television and film. 88 Feige said that he and Marvel were particularly impressed with Boden and Fleck's ability to create a diverse range of character-driven stories in all of their works. Feige felt the film had to focus on the complexity and relatability of Carol Danvers' character without being bogged down by the villains and the special effects, and thought that Boden and Fleck could provide this character focus. 89 Filming was scheduled to begin in January 2018, at Pinewood Atlanta Studios in Fayette County, Georgia. 90 But Feige said he did not expect it to begin until February. 91. By July 2017, Samuel L. Jackson was set to appear in the film, reprising his role as Nick Fury. 92 Larson, who had worked with Jackson on Kong, Skull Island, 2017, pushed for Fury's presence in the film. 93 At the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con, Feige revealed that the film would take place in the 1990s and that the Skrulls would be the film's villains, allowing elements from the Kree, Skrull War, 1971, comic book storyline to be used. 2094 By setting the film in the 1990s, Feige noted that Danvers would be the singular hero while still giving her a definitive placing in the MCU timeline. 21 Executive producer Jonathan Schwartz said setting the film in the 1990s was an idea from early in the development process, and gave the character a special place and significance within the MCU. It also allowed the film to make connections to plot details from past MCU films that are set later in the timeline. 24 Regarding the elements from the Kree, Skrull War used for the film, Schwartz said some paranoia elements would be featured but would not be related to the anti-superhero act as in the comics. He added that the Kree-Skrull conflict would mostly be a backdrop and mythological underpinning for the film. 41 In response to the Comic-Con announcements, Graham McMillan of The Hollywood Reporter compared the film to Captain America, The First Avenger, 2011, and the DC Extended Universe, DCEU, film Wonder Woman, 2017, as they were also set decades before the present day. By setting the film in the 1990s, McMillan felt it would create the question what happened to Captain Marvel to take her off the playing field ahead of the Marvel movies that we've seen to date. 95. Directors Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden speaking at the Pentagon in March 2019. Also in July, the California Film Commission awarded a $20.7 million tax credit to the production 96 going towards the first $100 million spent on qualified in-state expenditures 97 making California the main filming location for Captain Marvel. D'Esposito was excited about this since Marvel Studios' headquarters and post-production facilities are also in the state, allowing them to streamline the production process for this film and others. 96 Awarding of the tax credit was dependent on filming beginning within 180 days. 98 Marvel planned to spend $118.6 million filming in the state, for a net of $97.8 million after the tax credit was applied. 99 Schwartz said one of the reasons Los Angeles was chosen for filming was because not a lot of big movies shoot in LA anymore, so it weirdly feels like fresh territory for a movie like this. 100. Geneva Robertson Dworet was hired by mid-August to take over the scripting duties for Captain Marvel after Elie Favre left the project to co-direct Gigantic for Disney Animation. 101 Perlman also left the project, but stated that the story she and Elie Favre had worked on in earlier drafts would be retained in the final screenplay. 102 Robertson Dworet described the film as an action comedy, and likened her script to an initial one she wrote for Tomb Raider, 2018, before that film took a more dramatic tone. She added that it was important to the entire creative team to keep the comedic elements of the film and the sassiness of Danvers's character. Robertson Dworet also credited Boden for helping to shape Danvers's voice in the film and for the desire to carve our own path and make sure we weren't retreading the same territory after the release of Wonder Woman, and showing all facets of what women are capable of. 103 Feige added that Captain Marvel would have action scenes that would pay homage to 1990s action films, including Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991, since the 1990s action genre was one Marvel Studios had yet to explore. He also stated that much of the film would take place in outer space. 21 RoboCop, 1987, The French Connection, 1971, and The Conversation, 1974, also served as influences on Captain Marvel for Boden and Fleck. Speaking specifically to RoboCop, the directors were drawn to this idea of a character who's finding himself and finding his past from that film and how it could connect to the story they were telling in Captain Marvel. 104 Decanic and quantum physicist Spiridon Michalakis, of the Institute for Quantum Information and Matter at the California Institute of Technology, consulted on the film. 33 105. By October, filming was slated to begin in March 2018. Feige said the film would play a significant role in setting up Endgame, which was set for release after Captain Marvel. 106 Ben Mendelsohn entered negotiations to play the film's main villain, 107 having previously worked with Bowden and Fleck on their film Mississippi Grind, 2015. They had him in mind for the Captain Marvel villain when they first began working on the story, and Mendelsohn agreed to play the role shortly after discussing the film with the directors. 108 By November, Jude Law was in negotiations to join the film, which at the time was reported to be the role of Walter Lawson/Marvel. 109 Keanu Reeves had also been approached for the part but declined. 110 In January 2018, DeWanda Wise was cast as Maria Rambeau. 32 111 and Mendelsohn and Law were confirmed to have been cast. 111. Filming of Captain Marvel at Edwards Air Force Base in April 2018. Location shooting occurred at the end of January 2018. 112 113 set photos taken at that time showed Larson in a green and black uniform instead of the character's familiar red and blue suit. Feige responded by saying that Marvel accepts the risk of set photos being leaked as a consequence of location shooting, and felt that most people are savvy enough to know they're looking at a behind-the-scenes photo, completely out of context. He added that a large number of scenes in the film would be shot on location. 113. A month later, Gemma Chan joined the cast as Minerva. 114 In mid-March, Wise withdrew from the film because of a scheduling conflict with her television series She's Gotta Have It, 2017 to 2019. 115 Lashana Lynch entered into negotiations to replace Wise the next day. 116 and was confirmed for the role by the end of the month. At that time, Marvel revealed that Jimin Hoon-soo, Lee Pace, and Clark Gregg were set to reprise their respective roles of Korath, Ronan the Accuser, and Phil Coulson from earlier MCU films, as those characters were all killed in their previous appearances. Richard Newby of The Hollywood Reporter described the film as a unique opportunity to strengthen the presence of the characters who may not have lived up to their potential. 117 Marvel also announced that Algenis Pura Soto, Rune Tempt, and McKenna Grace had been cast. 1428 and revealed that Bowden, Fleck, and the writing team of Liz Flahive and Carly Mensch had all contributed to the film's screenplay in addition to Ali Fave, Perlman, and Robertson Dworet. 14 Beck Smith, who previously was a member of Marvel's screenwriter program, performed uncredited rewrites during production. 118. Principal photography began on March 19 in Los Angeles. 119 at Sony Studios under the working title Open World. 121 Schwartz stated that Open World was chosen because it likened the film to an open world video game that could go in many directions, which is how the production felt about Captain Marvel's story at the time. 24 A 1986 carnival scene was filmed later that week at the Jim Hall Racing Club in Oxnard, California. 122 Filming of Captain Marvel in Los Angeles, along with other big-budget films that took advantage of California's improved tax credit program, helped raise on-location feature film production in the area by 11.7% in the first quarter of 2018, compared with the same period in 2017, the first such double-figure increase since the fourth quarter of 2015. 123 Filming at Shaver Lake outside Fresno, California, was set to take place in April 124 but was pushed back to mid-May. 126 In late April, Feige stated that almost half of filming was completed. 22 The following month, Annette Bening joined the cast in an undisclosed role. 35 Additional location shooting in and around the Los Angeles area included Simi Valley, Edwards Air Force Base, and Lucerne Valley. 127 In late June, production moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana and New Orleans for 2 weeks. 128 A realistic cat puppet was used on set since Larson is allergic to cats. 129 scenes featuring the interior of the Quinjet were filmed on the set used to depict the interior of Quinjets on the MCU television series Agents of SHIELD. 2013 to 2020, 130 filming concluded on July 6. 131. Cinematographer Ben Davis shot primarily on large format Arri Alexa 65 cameras, liking how the camera rendered the film's costumes. 132 Davis, who previously served as director of photography for Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Doctor Strange, 2016, 14 noted that there was a point of departure in the visuals of Captain Marvel coming from its 1990s setting. 133 To achieve the 1990s aesthetic, Davis first attempted to utilize post-production techniques to convey a period look, but found that it just softened the image. He then tried using vintage Cooke Panchro and Canon K35 lenses, but they were not compatible with the large format of the Arri Alexa camera system. 134 Davis ultimately enlisted Dan Sasaki of Panavision to make new lenses for the period scenes that could work with the cameras. Davis initially intended not to use these lenses for scenes set in space, to differentiate them, but found himself using the lenses for some close-ups set in space because he liked the way they looked. 132. Post-production. Additional photography was confirmed to have begun via set photos in late November 2018. 135 With the release of the theatrical poster in early December, Marvel revealed that the writing team of Joe Shrapnel and Anna Waterhouse had worked on the film's story, while J.A.C. Schaffer had contributed to the screenplay. 136 Schaffer had previously been hired by Marvel to write Black Widow, 2021. 137 Bennings and Law's roles were officially confirmed in February 2019 as the Supreme Intelligence and Yon-Rogg, respectively. 3642. The film was edited by Elliot Graham and Debbie Berman, marking Behrman's third time co-editing an MCU film after Spider-Man, Homecoming and Black Panther. 138 Captain Marvel was edited using Avid Media Composer software in the Avid DNX HD codec on Apple computers. 139 Berman first became involved with the film when she was working on Homecoming and Bowden and Fleck were hired, and was hired herself for Captain Marvel the first week she was working on Black Panther. 138 In addition to Graham and Berman, the editing team was made up of first assistants Jessica Backles and Kimberly Boritz, second assistants Basuki Juwano and Christos Voutsinas, and assistant editor Joe Galdo, among others. Berman spoke fondly of this large team, feeling that they gave her the opportunity to focus on the film's story rather than the technical aspects of editing. 139. Jackson in 187, top, and in Captain Marvel, bottom. 187, 1997, was used as a primary reference to H. Jackson in Captain Marvel, which is set in 1995. 140. Visual effects for the film were created by Animal Logic, Cantina Creative, Digital Domain, Framestore, Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, Lola VFX, Luma Pictures, Rise, Rising Sun Pictures, Scanline VFX, Treater, and Elastic 141 with Lola VFX working on the de-aging of Jackson and Greg. 142 Lola looked at several of Jackson's films, including Pulp Fiction, 1994, Die Hard with a Vengeance, 1995, Jurassic Park, 1993, Loaded Weapon 1, 1993, and 187, 1997, as a reference for his de-aging. However, some of these films were disqualified due to circumstances surrounding the character Jackson was playing, Pulp Fiction because of the character's wig and facial hair, and Jurassic Park because the character was made to appear older in that film. Lola VFX supervisor Trent Claus said the final look was based partly on Die Hard and Loaded Weapon 1, but mostly on 187, which he described as the hero movie. Jackson was de-aged approximately 25 years from the age of 70 at the time of filming, to 45 for the 1995 setting. To do this, Both Jackson and Gregg had tracking dots applied to their faces during filming, for which the VFX team could anchor the handcrafted facial features that were composite primarily in Autodesk Flame. Lola's team included 40 primary compositors with another 15 to 20 junior compositors, and created approximately 500 different VFX shots, of which 385 made it in the final cut of film. 140 It was the first time Lola aged an actor without using a body double, as it would take too long to refilm all of Fury's scenes with the double. 143. Treater did initial development on the look of Danvers's binary powers and contributed the majority of visual effects for Goose the cat, including movements that were impossible for real-life cats to act. ILM handled Goose's alien features, as well as much of the final battle, for which they used Treater's work on the binary powers as well as inspiration from comic books, video games. 144 and anime. 145 ILM also did work on the Supreme Intelligence's virtual environment alongside Animal Logic, who took inspiration from the interior of the Louvre Abu Dhabi and the work they did with fractals for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, 2017. These scenes were filmed in a white room without green or blue screen, so Animal Logic had to rotoscope the actors out of the footage and place them in the digital environment. To maintain the quality of the actors' hair during this process, Animal Logic created digital hair for Larson and Benning. Luma Pictures was primarily responsible for the train chase sequence, nicknamed the French Connection scene after the 1971 film of the same name. They had to make the footage look as if it were continuing along a single train line, even though the sequence was filmed in multiple locations around Los Angeles. Digital Domain worked on the Skrull transformation sequences, Rise created the exterior environment of Hala, and Framestore handled the battle sequence on Torfa. Rising Sun handled all of the Kree forearm holograms, the interior of the Project Pegasus hangar, and the exterior of the Quajet. Scanline worked on effects for the aerial chases and the accident scene where Danvers gains her powers. Elastic created the end titles, and the Third Floor Incorporated provided previsualization and post-visualization work. 144. The film's mid-credits scene shows Captain Marvel meeting the Avengers, and was directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. Bowden described it as a lead-in to the Russos' Avengers, Endgame. 6. For Captain Marvel, Marvel Studios modified their production logo to honor Stan Lee, who died on November 12, 2018, by replacing the characters in the logo with Lee's MCU cameos. The logo is followed by a black screen reading "Thank you Stan." Feige said this was done because the film was Marvel's first since Lee died, and they wanted to start the film by acknowledging him with a celebration of his legacy rather than add a somber memorial to the end of the film. 146. Music. Main article, Captain Marvel, soundtrack. Pina Toprak signed on to compose the film's score in June 2018, making her the first woman to score an MCU film. 147. Toprak began by creating the title character's theme, before developing themes for the Kree and the Skrulls, whom she tried to connect in order to find the universe for the film scenes in space and Earth. 148. Toprak wanted Captain Marvel's theme to be recognizable from its first two notes. 148. In addition to Toprak's score, the film's soundtrack includes Alan Silvestri's theme from The Avengers, 2012. 149. Michael Giacchino's Marvel Studios fanfare, which is played over the Marvel Studios logo and referenced during Stan Lee's cameo appearance. 150. And songs from the 1990s. 40. In April 2019, Mark Salcedo of the website Screen Geek alleged that Marvel and the film's directors had been unhappy with Toprak's work on the film even after she had responded to ample notes, and had replaced her as composer for the film with Giacchino. 151. Giacchino responded to this report by confirming he was involved in the film, revealing that he had been asked to give feedback on Toprak's work while he was working with Marvel on the score for Spider-Man: Far From Home, 2019. He thought Toprak had written a beautiful theme and an inspiring score for the film and had helped her work on a few cues, which he said was him supporting her as a fellow member of the Marvel family. Giacchino made it clear that he did not write the score to Captain Marvel. Bottom line is Toprak is a fabulous composer and certainly doesn't need me. 152. Marketing. Larson with airmen from the Air Force District of Washington and their families at a screening of the first Captain Marvel trailer at the National Air and Space Museum. In 2017, concept art from the film was shown at San Diego Comic-Con 20 and a first look at Larson as Danvers was revealed at Cine Europe. 153. Larson debuted the first trailer for the film that September at the National Air and Space Museum on Good Morning America. 154. Petrana Rajulovic of Polygon felt the trailer showed large-scale action and intergalactic mayhem that reaches for Infinity War's heights. 155. While Ben Kuchera, also of Polygon, approved of opening the trailer with Blockbuster Video since its logo is identifiable to the audience. Kuchera also compared the sun-drenched Air Force pilot sequences to Top Gun. 156. Devin Coogan of Entertainment Weekly called the trailer a powerful introduction to the MCU's first solo female hero. 157. Graham McMillan of The Hollywood Reporter felt the prominent narration by Nick Fury grounds the trailer in something somewhat familiar for the Marvel faithful, but said the changes to the character's origin story were a risky proposition to longtime fans of the character. 158. Richard Newby, also of The Hollywood Reporter, noted that the character's unfamiliarity to audiences was not presented as a joke in the trailer as with Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man, 2015, and commended Davis for its more grounded look than previous MCU films. 159. The trailer did receive some criticism, including that the plot presented was unclear, confusion as to why Danvers punches an elderly woman, and objections to Danvers not smiling much. 160. The trailer was viewed 109 million times in its first 24 hours, becoming the 11th most viewed trailer in that time period. 161. The second trailer debuted on December 3, 2018, during halftime of the Monday Night Football game between the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles. 136. McMillan felt the trailer too overtly responded to online criticisms of the first, including clarification that the elderly lady Carol punches was a Skrull, more shots of her smiling, and additional emphasis on both explaining the plot and establishing Carol Danvers as a character. McMillan compared the contents and structure of the two Captain Marvel trailers to those for Thor, 2011, and Captain America, the First Avenger. 160. Newby felt the second trailer offers increased action and a more in-depth look at the mythology surrounding Captain Marvel, but criticized it for not helping to introduce the film's supporting characters. He compared the trailer to a superhero version of John Carpenter's Starman, 1984, explaining, explosions, space battles, and superpowers may bring in the crowds, but it's moments of humanity and introspection that will allow Captain Marvel to leave her mark and encourage audiences to care about the mystery surrounding who she is. 162. On December 8, Larson participated in a panel at CCXP in Brazil, where she shared footage and an extended trailer from the film and presented an exclusive poster for the event. 163. By January 3, 2019, Box Office revealed their trailer impact metric service indicated approximately 66 to 70% of people surveyed who viewed the Captain Marvel trailer in the past 2 weeks expressed interest in seeing the film. In the 2 weeks it was measured by trailer impact, it was number 2 for both, behind Avengers, Endgame, and had some of the highest percentage of respondents express interest in seeing the film ever for the service. Trailer impact usually includes films 10 weeks out from release, but Box Office decided to add Captain Marvel to the survey 12 weeks out. 164. In January 2019, the crowdfunding platform GoFundMe announced the hashtag Captain Marvel Challenge, a campaign to purchase tickets and refreshments for girls and chaperones at the Greater Los Angeles chapter of Girls Incorporated. The campaign, inspired by the success of the hashtag Black Panther Challenge, which raised more than $50,000 for children to watch Black Panther, came after Brie Larson suggested on Twitter that there should be a similar campaign for Captain Marvel. 165 For the film's press tour, Larson noted she would be pushing for representation across the board: my interviews, magazine covers, the clothes that I'm wearing, as part of her support for inclusiveness and opposition to sexual harassment in Hollywood. 166 In February, a commercial for the film aired during the television broadcast of Super Bowl 53. Bruce Fretz of the New York Times listed the commercial as one of the best advertisements to air during the telecast, stating, "The commercial introduces a new catchphrase: higher, further, faster, and lives up to it with a lightning-quick montage that sets pulses racing." 167. CBS charged $5.25 million for each 30-second advertisement that aired during the game. 168 Also in February, Alaska Airlines unveiled a Captain Marvel-themed Boeing 737-800 jet, featuring the film's logo on the side and images of Goose the cat on its wings. The plane debuted at the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport before its first flight to Orange County, California. 169 At the end of the month, an hour-long video of Goose was live-streamed on Marvel's YouTube channel. 170. Release. Theatrical. Lashana Lynch with airmen of the 311th Fighter Squadron at the Hollywood premiere of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel premiered in London on February 27, 2019 171 and in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on March 4. 172 The Hollywood premiere included a flyover by the United States Air Force Thunderbirds in honor of Thunderbirds pilot Major Stephen Del Bagno. 173 Who consulted with Larson on the film before dying in a training accident in April 2018. 15 The film was released in the United States on March 8, 74, coinciding with International Women's Day. 174 It was also released in IMAX and 3D formats. 175 176 It was originally scheduled for release on July 6, 2018 58, but in February 2015 it was moved to November 2, 2018, to make room for Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, 61, and in October 2015 it was pushed to its final March 2019 date for Ant-Man and the Wasp, 2018. 177 The film's release in Pakistan was delayed for 4 weeks. 178 At the time, Disney's South Asia division, which is headquartered in India, had not given Pakistan the rights to distribute it. Commentators online speculated that this was due to ongoing Indo-Pakistani tensions, but Disney South Asia head Nadeem Mandviwala called this statement baseless. 179 Captain Marvel is part of Phase 3 of the MCU. 180. Home media. Captain Marvel was the first Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures distributed film not to stream on Netflix, after Disney let their licensing deal with Netflix expire. It became the first theatrical Disney release to stream exclusively on Disney+, which launched on November 12, 2019. 181 The film was released on digital download by Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment on May 28, 2019, and on Ultra HD Blu-ray, and DVD on June 11. The digital and Blu-ray releases include behind-the-scenes featurettes, deleted scenes, and gag reels. 182 Captain Marvel has made over $64.2 million from video sales in the US. 183 The IMAX enhanced version of the film was made available on Disney Plus beginning on November 12, 2021. 184. Reception. Box office. Captain Marvel grossed $426.8 million in the United States and Canada, and $701.6 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $1.128 billion. For it had a worldwide opening of $456.7 million, the sixth biggest of all time, and the biggest opening for a female-led film. 185 Deadline Hollywood estimated that the film had a total production and advertising cost of $300 million. 2. It is the fifth highest grossing film of 2019. 186 On April 2, 2019, the film crossed the $1 billion mark worldwide, becoming the first female-led superhero movie to do so. 187 As well as the 7th Marvel title, the 19th Disney film, and 38th film overall. 188 Deadline Hollywood calculated the film's net profit as $414 million, accounting for production budgets, marketing, talent participations, and other costs. Box office grosses and home media revenues placed it fifth on their list of 2019's most valuable blockbusters. 189. The film's first 24 hours of advance ticket sales, which began on January 7, 2019, ranked third on Fandango for an MCU film, behind Avengers, Infinity War and Black Panther, and second on Atom Tickets, behind Infinity War. 190 According to Fandango, Captain Marvel had the third largest advanced ticket sales of any MCU film, behind Infinity War and Black Panther, and surpassed Wonder Woman and Aquaman, 2018, during the same time period. 191 The film made $61.4 million on its first day, including $20.7 million from Thursday night previews, which was the fifth highest total for a Marvel film and second highest for a March release, behind Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, 2016. It made $153.4 million over its opening weekend, making this the third best March opening, after Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice and Beauty and the Beast, 2017, as well as seventh highest of the MCU. 2. Captain Marvel would hold the record for having the highest opening weekend for a female-directed film until it was surpassed by Barbie 4 years later in 2023. 192 The film remained in first place during its second weekend, with $69.3 million, the second highest sophomore weekend in March, behind Beauty and the Beast. 193 The film grossed $35.2 million in its third weekend, dropping to second, behind Us. 194 In the following weeks it dropped to third, fifth, sixth, and fourth, before rising to second again in its eighth weekend with the release of Avengers: Endgame. 195 Captain Marvel finished its box office run as the sixth highest grossing film of 2019 in this region. 196. On its first day of international release, the film made $5.9 million in South Korea and $1.7 million in France, as well as $2.51 million from Thursday night previews in China, the fourth best for an MCU film in the country. Through its first 2 days of release in foreign territories, the film made $44 million, including $9.1 million in South Korea, $3 million in Brazil, $2.9 million in France and $2.5 million in Australia. It also grossed $34 million on its first day in China, the third best superhero opening day ever in the country. The film went on to have a foreign opening weekend of $302.4 million, the fifth best of all time. Its largest markets were China, $89.3 million, South Korea, $24.1 million, the UK, $16.8 million, Brazil, $13.4 million, the second best opening of any film in the country's history, and Mexico, $12.8 million, fifth best ever. 185 Through its first 12 days of release, the film's highest grossing foreign countries were China, $135.7 million, South Korea, $37.5 million, the United Kingdom, $32.9 million, Brazil, $26.1 million, and Mexico, $25.7 million. 197 By April 2nd, the film's largest foreign markets were China, $152.3 million, South Korea, $43.7 million, the UK, $43.3 million, Brazil, $34.5 million, and Mexico, $31.8 million. 188. Critical response. The review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes reported an approval rating of 79%, with an average score of 6.8/10, based on 546 reviews. The website's critical consensus reads, "Packed with action, humor, and visual thrills, Captain Marvel introduces the MCU's latest hero with an origin story that makes effective use of the franchise's signature formula." 198. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 64 out of 100 based on 56 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. 199. According to the New York Times, the film's overall reception was fairly positive, but it wasn't as well received as other films in the MCU. 200. The Hindustan Times, collating multiple reviews of the film, noted praise for Brie Larson's performance but also criticism for the film's convoluted plot and lack of originality. 201. Brie Larson's performance as Carol Danvers received praise from critics. 202. Kenneth Turan, writing for the Los Angeles Times, lauded Larson's performance and the direction of Bowden and Fleck, saying, "Marvel has come to recognize, as this film proves, that even effects-heavy behemoths can benefit from a directing touch that is human, not programmatic, that understands character and nuance and can create scenes with an emotional heft we might not expect." 203. A.O. Scott of the New York Times said the film was not too long, not too self-important, and benefits from the craft and talent of a cast that includes Annette Bening, Jude Law, and Ben Mendelsohn. 204. Writing for Variety, Owen Gleiberman also praised the film's direction. He said that Bowden and Fleck had not been able to retain their signature style of low-key American neorealism, but was still positive about how they were able to create a film with enough tricks and moods and sleight-of-hand layers to keep us honestly absorbed within the house style of the MCU. 205. Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 3.5 out of 4 stars, and said it was a real treat to follow the origin stories of both Carol Danvers and Nick Fury. 206. Rolling Stone's Peter Travers gave it 4 stars and praised Larson's performance for bringing layers of feeling to a role that a lesser actress might have let slide by on pyrotechnics. "You see how she lays the foundation for a character who defies male objectification and becomes akin to what Joni Mitchell called a woman of heart and mind." 207. Anthony Lane of The New Yorker stated, "Superhero cinema has lectured us, ad infinitum, on the responsibility that is conferred by extraordinary gifts. Praise be to Larson, for reminding us that they can be bringers of fun." 208. Todd McCarthy of The Hollywood Reporter described the film as mundane, marked by unimaginative plotting, cut-rate villains, a bland visual style and a lack of elan in every department. 209. David Ehrlich at IndieWire gave the film a C grade and called it neither a blast from the past, nor an inspiring glimpse into the future, it's just another Marvel movie. And not a particularly good one. Ehrlich praised Mendelsohn, saying he gave the best performance in the film. 210. Joe Morgenstern of the Wall Street Journal said Danvers is a candidate for genuine heroism but found a fundamental dissonance between the depth of her plight and the shallow disorganization of the script. 211. The AV Club's Ignatiy Vishnevetsky was disappointed by the film, finding it to be everything you might expect a sci-fi superhero movie to be, if you hadn't seen one in a long time. 212. Richard Brody of The New Yorker compared the film to a political commercial that packs a worthy message but hardly counts as an aesthetic experience. The message of the film is conveyed less through the story than through its casting. 213. Audience response. In late December 2018, the film was named as the most anticipated 2019 film by IMDb, the most anticipated new standalone comic book film and the second most anticipated blockbuster of 2019 according to Fandango 214, and the second most anticipated superhero and overall film by Atom Tickets 215. Ahead of the film's release, Captain Marvel's Want to See score and audience anticipation poll on Rotten Tomatoes had fallen to 28%. 216 reports described the decline as an effort to review bomb the film's page with negative comments attacking the film and Larson for their perceived feminism. 217 Rotten Tomatoes changed the Want to See feature shortly after, showing only the number of people indicating interest in the film instead of a percentage. The announcement said this was part of a larger redesign of the site, and that the Want to See feature would be restored once the film was released. 218 by 8 a.m. on opening day in the United States, the film held a 33% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes from more than 58,000 reviews, which was more audience reviews than Avengers: Infinity War had during its entire theatrical run. Analysts attributed the low score and sheer number of reviews to online trolling. Rotten Tomatoes later said a bug was responsible for the high count of reviews, and by 1 p.m. the number of counted ratings was down to 7,000 with an audience score of 35%. 219. Audiences of the film polled by CinemaScore gave it an average grade of A on a scale of A+ to F, while Post-Track reported that 73% of filmgoers gave it a definite recommend. 58% said it met their expectations, while 35% said it exceeded them. Unlike Wonder Woman, which was watched by more women than men, Captain Marvel's initial audience was 61% male, according to Post-Track. Discussing these statistics, Deadline Hollywood's Anthony D'Alessandro praised CinemaScore and Post-Track for taking scientific polls that actually identified how the audience was feeling about the film, and criticized the Rotten Tomatoes audience score as an ancient 1990s means of collecting opinions online that is influenced by ugly internet troll noise. Brianne Sydney DeSaulniers, born October 1, 1989, known professionally as Brie Larson, is an American actress, singer, and filmmaker. She played supporting roles in comedies as a teenager, and has since expanded to leading roles in independent films and blockbusters. Her accolades include an Academy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and a Primetime Emmy Award. Time magazine named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2019. At age 6, Larson was the youngest student admitted to a training program at the American Conservatory Theater, and she began her acting career in 1998 with a comedy sketch on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. She appeared as a regular in the sitcom Raising Dad, 2001 to 2002, and experimented with a music career, releasing the album Finally Out of PE. 2005. She subsequently had supporting roles in the comedy films Hoot, 2006, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, 2010, and 21 Jump Street, 2012, and appeared as a sardonic teenager in the television series United States of Terra, 2009 to 2011. Larson's breakthrough came as a social worker in the independent drama Short Term 12, 2013, along with supporting roles in the coming-of-age romance The Spectacular Now, 2013, and the comedy Trainwreck, 2015. She gained wider recognition for her performance as a kidnapping victim in The Drama Room, 2015, for which she received the Academy Award for Best Actress. She ventured into blockbusters with the monster film Kong, Skull Island, 2017, and by starring as Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, beginning with Captain Marvel, 2019. Larson returned to television to star in the miniseries Lessons in Chemistry, 2023, for which she earned a nomination for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress. Larson has co-written and co-directed 2 short films, and made her feature film directorial debut with the independent comedy drama Unicorn Store, 2017. For producing the virtual reality series The Messy Truth VR Experience, 2020, She won a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Interactive Program. A gender equality activist and an advocate for sexual assault survivors, Larson is vocal about social and political issues. Early life. A picture of the Geary Theater at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. The American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, where Larson was the youngest student admitted. Brianne Sydney DeSaulniers was born on October 1, 1989, in Sacramento, California to Heather, née Edwards, and Sylvain DeSaulniers, two homeopathic chiropractors who ran a practice together. They have another daughter, Mylane. 3. Her father is Franco-Manitoban, French was Larson's first language. 5. She holds dual citizenship of Canada and the United States. 7. She was mostly homeschooled, which she believed allowed her to explore innovative and abstract experiences. 3. 8. 9. Describing her early life, Larson has said she was straight-laced and square, and that she shared a close bond with her mother but was shy and had social anxiety. 3. 8. 10. During the summer, she wrote and directed her own home movies in which she cast her cousins, filmed in her garage. 11. At age 6, she expressed interest in becoming an actress, later remarking that the creative arts was just something that was always in me. 3. 12. That same year, at age 13, she auditioned for a training program at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, where she became its youngest student. 4. She has said she wanted to become an actress after watching Jennifer Lopez in Selena, 1997. 15. Larson's parents divorced when she was aged 7. 14. She had a dysfunctional relationship with her father, saying, "As a kid I tried to understand him and understand the situation. But he didn't do himself any favors. I don't think he ever really wanted to be a parent." 14. Soon after their separation, Heather relocated to Los Angeles with her 2 daughters to fulfill Larson's acting ambition. They had limited financial means and lived in a small apartment near Hollywood studio lots at Burbank. 14. Larson described the experience, "We had a crappy one-room apartment where the bed came out of the wall and we each had 3 articles of clothing." 3. Even so, she has recounted fond memories of this period and credits her mother for doing the best she could for them. 16. As her last name was difficult to pronounce, she adopted the stage name Larson from her Swedish great-grandmother, as well as an American Girl doll named Kirsten Larson that she received as a child. 12. 17. 18. 19. Her first job was performing a commercial parody for Barbie, named Malibu Mudslide Barbie, in a 1998 episode of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. 28. 20. She subsequently took on guest roles in several television series, including Touched by an Angel and Popular. 4. In 2000, she was cast in the Fox sitcom Schimmel, which was cancelled before airing when its star, Robert Schimmel, was diagnosed with cancer. 21. 22. 23. Career. 2001 to 2008, early work and music career. I was so insecure and so hard on myself back then. But there was a moment when I started doing the math. It took me 2 hours to get ready every day, hair and makeup, so many clothes, trying to make sure everything matched really well, and I had this intense epiphany. I realized how much time I was spending getting ready for life I wasn't actually living it. It was the most terrified I've ever been in my life. So I went in the exact opposite way. Larson recalling her early career, 2015-24. Larson's first major role came as Emily, the younger daughter of Bob Saget's character, in the WB sitcom Raising Dad, which aired for 1 season during the 2001-02 television schedule. 25. Hal Bodeker of Orlando Sentinel criticized the program and wrote that its cast members were merrily joking through the show. 26. She was next hired for the ABC sitcom Hope and Faith, but she and some other cast members were replaced after an unaired pilot. 27. In 2003, she starred alongside Beverly Mitchell in the Disney Channel film Right on Track, based on the Junior Drag Race star sisters Erica and Courtney Enders, and played minor roles in the 2004 comedy Sleepover and 13 Going on 30. 28, 29, 30. Larson developed an interest in music at age 11 when she learned to play the guitar. A music executive encouraged her to write her own songs, and she began self-recording and uploading tracks to her own website. 31, 32. After failing to get cast as Wendy Darling in the 2003 film Peter Pan, Larson wrote and recorded a song titled Invisible Girl, which received airplay on Kiss FM. 1620. She soon signed a record deal with Tommy Mottola of Casablanca Records. She and Lindsay Lohan were the only artists signed by the label at the time. 1633-34. In 2005, she released the album Finally Out of PE, for which she also co-wrote songs with other songwriters, including Blair Daly, Pam Shane, Lindy Robbins, and Holly Brooke. 33-35. She titled it after a gym teacher she disliked and has said the songs she wrote were mostly about failed job opportunities. 20-35. One of her singles, She Said, was featured on the MTV series Total Request Live, was listed by Billboard in their weekly listings of the most played videos in the channel, and peaked at number 31 on the Billboard Hot Single Sales. 36-37-38. Larson went on tour with Jesse McCartney for Teen People's Rock in Shop Mall concerts, opened for him during his Beautiful Soul tour, and also performed in New York City at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Even so, the album was not a success, selling only 3,500 copies. 35-39-40. Larson later admitted to being disillusioned with her music career, saying, "I wanted to write all my own songs, and the recording company were afraid of that. I wanted to wear sneakers and play my guitar, they wanted heels and wind-blown hair." 33. In 2006, Larson was cast alongside Logan Lerman and Cody Lindley in the comedy film Hoot, about young vigilantes trying to save a group of owls. It received poor reviews, but Ruth Stein of the San Francisco Chronicle was appreciative of Larson and Lindley for bringing a dash of Indiana Jones to their roles. 41-42. She had a small part, the following year, in the Amber Heard starring drama Remember the Days, and she launched an arts and literature magazine, Bunnies and Traps, for which she wrote her own opinion columns and accepted submissions from other artists and writers. 32-43. Larson has said she frequently considered quitting acting at that point, as she found it difficult to find much work, blaming it on filmmakers' inability to typecast her. For she was particularly discouraged when she lost out on key roles in the films 13, 2003, and Juno, 2007. 44. To support herself, Larson worked as a club DJ. 45. 2009 to 2014, Independent Films and Breakthrough. In 2009, Larson began playing Kate Gregson, the sardonic teenage daughter of Toni Collette's character, coping with her mother's dissociative identity disorder, in the Showtime comedy drama series United States of Terra. Portia Doubleday was initially cast in the role but was replaced with Larson after filming the pilot episode. 46. Reviewing the first season for the New York Times, Alessandra Stanley took note of how well Larson played a real teenager, and Tim Goodman of the San Francisco Chronicle credited her for finding nuance in her role. 47-48. Larson has said that her character's journey to find meaning in life mirrored that of her own, and she was upset when the show was cancelled after 3 seasons in 2011. 49-50. Also in 2009, she starred alongside Rooney Mara in Tanner Hall, a coming-of-age film about 4 girls in boarding school. Despite disliking the film, Betsy Sharkey of the Los Angeles Times commended Larson for providing one of the film's funniest bits. 51. In her 2 other film releases that year, she played a scatterbrained cheerleader in Housebroken and a popular high schooler in Just Peck. 52. An upper body shot of a smiling Brie Larson. Larson at the London premiere of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World in 2010. At the Williamstown Theatre Festival in 2010, Larson appeared in a stage production of Thornton Wilder's play Our Town. 53. Directed by Nicholas Martin, it featured her in the role of Emily Webb, a precocious young girl. Reviewing the play for the Boston Globe, Louise Kennedy thought the production had glossed over the play's darker themes and bemoaned the lack of tragic arc in Larson's character. 54 In film, she featured in Noah Baumbach's comedy drama Greenberg and Edgar Wright's comedy Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. 55-56 A journalist for Slant magazine opined that these films helped raise her profile, and Larson has said the latter film, in which she played a rock star named Envy Adams, marked a turning point in her career. 357 In it, Larson performed the song Black Sheep with the band Metric. 58 Although it did not fare well commercially, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World has since developed a cult following. 59-60 She next played the troubled daughter of a corrupt cop, played by Woody Harrelson, in the drama Rampart, 2011, an emotionally intense part she found herself unable to detach from. 61 A confrontation scene between Harrelson and her proved upsetting for her. The director was surprised by how well it turned out and tweaked the script to further explore the father-daughter relationship. 62-63 In 2012, Larson expanded into filmmaking by co-writing and co-directing the short film The Arm with Jesse Ennis and Sarah Ramos. The film, about societal expectations in the near future, won a special jury prize at the Sundance Film Festival. 3/16/31 She featured as a seductive teenager in the critically panned drama The Trouble with Bliss 64, after which she played Molly, a high school student, in 21 Jump Street, an adaptation of the 1980s police procedural television series, co-starring Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum. Larson found her acting style to be more rigid than Hill's approach and was challenged by scenes that required her to improvise with him. 65 Dana Stevens of Slate labeled Larson a find of major proportions, adding that she's not only beautiful but funny, with a scratchy contralto voice, and unlike the usual female in a buddy movie, she comes across as a real person. 66 With a worldwide gross of over $200 million, 21 Jump Street proved to be Larson's most widely seen film to that point. 67-68 Brie Larson looks directly at the camera. Larson attending a screening of Don John at the 2013 South by Southwest. Following an appearance in the sitcom Community 69, Larson collaborated with Dustin Bowser to co-write and co-direct Waiting, 2013, a short film about a strained relationship, which was screened at South by Southwest. 61-70 Larson's breakthrough came in the same year when she starred in Destin Daniel Cretton's critically acclaimed independent drama Short Term 12, which marked the first leading role of her career. 671 Set in a group home for troubled teenagers, the film featured her as Grace, the emotionally distressed supervisor of the institution. To prepare, Larson interacted with staff in a children's home and watched online interviews of people with similar jobs. 72 The film had a production budget of under $1 million, and she was pleased with its intimate and collaborative work environment. 73-74 Larson's performance was acclaimed by critics. 75-76-77 Manala Dargis of the New York Times found her terrific and completely persuasive, and Ian Freer of Empire stated that she builds into a whirling dervish of a performance, making Grace strong but scarred, damaged but compassionate. 78-79 Jenny McCartney of the Daily Telegraph predicted that it would mark her out for a stellar career. 80 Larson received a nomination for the Independent Spirit Award for Best Female Lead. She later remarked that the film prompted directors to offer her a wide variety of parts, but she turned down roles of the unidimensional love interest. 44-81 Also in 2013, Larson had supporting roles in two romantic dramas, Don John and The Spectacular Now. In the former, written and directed by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, she played the sister of Don John, played by Gordon-Levitt. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone praised the film's exploration of sexual themes and found Larson to be terrific in it. 82 In The Spectacular Now, starring Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley, she played Cassidy, the ex-girlfriend of Teller's character. Larson was drawn to the realism she found in the project's depiction of high school experiences. 73 Writing for New York Magazine, David Adelstein called upon viewers to admire the shading and intelligence she brings to Cassidy. 83. The 2014 crime drama The Gambler, based on the 1974 film of the same name, featured Larson as a literature student who has an affair with her professor, played by Mark Wahlberg, a gambling addict. The director Rupert Wyatt felt the role was underwritten and cast Larson to lend heft to it. 84. Even so, Claudia Pook of USA Today wrote that the talented Larson is given little to do, other than react. 85. 2015 to 2019, established actress. Larson had 3 film releases in 2015. Her first appearance was in Digging for Fire, a largely improvised ensemble comedy drama featuring Jake Johnson in the lead role. Filming took place without a script and Larson made several on-set decisions regarding her character's choices, including the removal of a planned romantic subplot involving her and Johnson. 86. She next played the sister of Amy Schumer's character in the comedy Trainwreck, which was loosely based on Schumer's own life. Larson modeled her role on Schumer's sister, who served as an associate producer on the film. 87. 88. Tim Grierson of Screen International labeled the film a deft blend of laughs, romance and poignancy and found Larson to be lively, but slightly underused. 89. Trainwreck grossed over $140 million against a $35 million budget. 90. Larson then starred in Room, a film adaptation of Emma Donoghue novel of the same name. It featured her as Ma, a young woman held in captivity, who bears a child of rape. The role proved physically and emotionally taxing for her, and she modeled it on her mother's struggle as a single parent. 16. A large portion of the film was shot inside a 10 feet x 10 feet shed created in a studio, and Larson prepared herself by spending a month isolated in her apartment. 31. She interacted with specialists on sexual abuse and researched the lack of nutrition that a person in captivity would suffer. 31. To achieve the look, she stayed away from sunlight, modified her diet, and exercised extensively to lose weight. 8. Larson collaborated closely with co-star Jacob Tremblay, who played her son, and spent time performing activities that mirrored those of their characters. 91. Room was critically acclaimed, with major emphasis on the performances of Larson and Tremblay. 92. Kenneth Turan of the Los Angeles Times called her performance astonishing, stating that the reality and preternatural commitment she brings to Ma is piercingly honest from start to finish, as scaldingly emotional a performance as anyone could wish for. 93. She won several awards, including the Academy Award for Best Actress, as well as a Golden Globe and BAFTA in the same category. 94. An upper body shot of Brie Larson waving, facing left. Larson at the Japan premiere of Kong, Skull Island in 2017. Following the success of Room, Larson played a leading role in Free Fire, 2016, an action comedy about a shootout in a warehouse. She agreed to the project to call attention to gun violence. 95. Eric Cohn of IndieWire noted how different Larson's role was from that in Room and added that her businesslike demeanor once again proves her ability to command a scene with a single glare. 96. Commercially, the film failed to recoup its $7 million investment. 97. 98. She had filmed a part in Todd Solondz's comedy Wiener Dog, but her scenes were deleted from the final cut as Solondz found her character inessential to the story. 99. The following year, Larson starred alongside Tom Hiddleston and Samuel L. Jackson in the second installment of the MonsterVerse franchise, entitled Kong, Skull Island. Shot in Vietnam, the film featured her as a photojournalist in the 1970s. 100. It marked her first mainstream big-budget release, and while she was glad to play a role not defined by her looks, she bemoaned the lack of female co-stars. 214. Ann Hornaday of The Washington Post praised the film's visual effects and remarked that Larson manages to hold her own with very little to do. 101. Kong, Skull Island was a commercial success, grossing over $566 million worldwide. 67. 102. Later in 2017, Larson portrayed Jeanette Walls in The Glass Castle, an adaptation of Wall's memoir, which reunited her with Destin Daniel Cretton. It tells the story of a young woman's relationship with her nonconformist parents, played by Woody Harrelson and Naomi Watts. 103 Larson was drawn to the complex depiction of a parent-child relationship and identified with its theme of forgiveness. She collaborated closely with Walls and her siblings and observed their mannerisms. 104 Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian disliked the film's sentimentality but noted that it is saved, just a little, by the robustness of Brie Larson's presence. 105 Also poorly received was the India-set musical romance Basmati Blues, a project she had filmed in 2013, which received criticism on social media for its white savior narrative. 106 107 The 2017 Toronto International Film Festival marked the release of Larson's feature film directorial debut, the comedy drama Unicorn Store, in which she also starred. 108 It was later picked for digital distribution by Netflix in 2019. 109 She played a disillusioned art student fascinated with unicorns. Larson had unsuccessfully auditioned in 2012 to star in the film when Miguel Arteta was attached to direct. After the production was stalled, Larson was offered to direct and star in it. 11 She was drawn to the fanciful narrative and found a connection between her character's journey and her experience as a director. 110 David Ehrlich of IndieWire disliked the film but took note of Larson's potential as a filmmaker. 111 Larson promoting Captain Marvel in 2019. After a year-long absence from the screen, Larson starred as Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe superhero film Captain Marvel, 2019, which marked Marvel Studios' first female-led film. 112 113 She was initially skeptical about taking on such a high-profile role, but later accepted the part after viewing it as a platform to empower young women and found a connection with the character's flaws and humanity. 114 In preparation, she underwent 9 months of judo, boxing, and wrestling training, and interacted with service personnel at the Nellis Air Force Base. 115 116 117 Stephanie Zacharek of Time wrote that Larson, a perceptive, low-key actor, carries the whole affair capably and took note of how much she stood out in the film's quieter moments. David Sims of The Atlantic bemoaned the lack of depth in her role, but credited the actress for effectively portraying her character's struggle for independence from authoritarian men. 118 119 Larson reprised her role in Avengers, Endgame, which she had filmed before Captain Marvel. 120 Endgame grossed $2.79 billion worldwide to briefly become the highest-grossing film of all time, and Captain Marvel became the first female-led superhero film to gross over $1 billion worldwide. 121 122 Also in 2019, Larson teamed with Destin Daniel Cretton for the third time in Just Mercy, based on Bryan Stevenson's memoir about death row inmate Walter McMillian's wrongful conviction, starring Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. She agreed to take on the supporting part of Eva Ansley, an advocate for the Equal Justice Initiative, to lend her support to Cretton's storytelling. 123 Owen Gleiberman of Variety took note of how well she channeled her character's antsy, cigarette-smoking defensiveness. 124 2020, present, brief hiatus and career expansion. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Larson took a break from acting, stating that the roles she was being offered were variations of the one she played in Room. Feeling the need to recalibrate, she instead focused on personal interests such as podcasting and vlogging. 125 In 2020, she produced and appeared in an episode of the Messy Truth VR Experience, a virtual reality series created by Van Jones, for which they won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Original Interactive Program. 126 127 In 2022, Larson reprised her role as Captain Marvel for the Disneyland Paris theme park ride Avengers Assemble, Flight Force and the Disney Wish cruise ship ride Avengers, Quantum Encounter. 128 129 She collaborated with Disney Plus on 2 projects.